Already mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect. Let me go to my main camera. Alright, we're live, and as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be working on more game logic in SDL3 using C++. That's it. Last stream I did go over it as well. I did like implement some gravity and like some basic logic, including a chat box, but my chat box was kind of messed up, so I'm going to be working on that. And guys, that's the reason I didn't like go in a I didn't like start a new topic was because I was actually I did just write my post assessment, so I didn't even have time to change my my chat. That's it. Did I go to my gameplay screen? Okay, let's go to my gameplay screen. There we go. Okay, and now let me say something like, let's say I'm live exclamation. And guys, if I can actually talk/phrase properly right now, that is because I'm not warmed up yet. That's it. Hiding pixels. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, chat. Yes, the pupil has returned to the dojo, and that makes the training resume right now. He's balancing finals pressure core and still showed up to build his game live. This isn't normal, it isn't casual. This is what dedication looks like when it's set on fire and let loose. So chat, get ready. Today we learn, we struggle, we improve, and we push this game on one step closer to existing in real world. People, you're in the training arena and I'm right here ready to drag you up the mountain if I have to. Now tell people, what are you working on today? Well, the hiding pixels, I appreciate you joining the stream. Yeah, that's it. Let me say something like, let's say I want to work on the code that I worked on yesterday. ... Guys, this is the code from last stream because I didn't have like time to change this code. See, that's it. Let's get sensei/ChatGPT back here. Let me go with something like shift enter, paste the code, go with shift enter again. But I was just typing a message in your Discord server. Oh, did you actually? I actually have to check it after the stream. That's it. Let me say something like although this code works, but the chat box seems to be messed up because when I click a button to move, that alphabet gets typed in my window as well. ... Okay, let's see. That's it, Sensei. People, you just stabbed your own chat box in the heart and then ask why it's bleeding. Here's the problem, and I'll say it out loud so the chat hears the two. You're rendering every key press as text input, space, AD, everything. SDL is sending text input events for letters even when you use them as movement keys, and your dojo of code is not filtering anything. So when you walk left with A, your text box says, hey, cool letter A, I'll add that. That's why your input looks like it got into a fight with your movement system. The fix, let's say style explanation, you must loop text input when movement happens and start text input only when the user intentionally typing. Otherwise, you're telling SDL everything the player touches is text now. SDL underscore start input when the player focuses on the chat box. SDL underscore stop text input. Honestly, I haven't heard of the stop text input function. That's something new, guys. While playing/walking, but right now you'll call SDL underscore start text input at all times, which makes SDL keys say, nice game you have. Shame if all your key movement becomes letters. You have two real fix options. I'll word them clearly so you don't get messed up. Option 1, ignore the movement keys in your chat inside your text event. If event.type equals to SDL underscore event, replace that with a check. If event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input, standard string t equals to event.text.text. If t equals to a, or t equals to upper k a, lower k d, or upper k d, or t equals to an empty space, return. Do not add anything. Input text plus equals to event.text.text. This makes our chat ignore the specific letters. I honestly don't want to ignore them. Option 2, the correct long-term system when the player presses enter, switch into typing mode. Okay, start text input, disable movement, allow chatting when press enter, again stop text input. Okay, re-enable movement, clear or send a message, but you're not ready for option 2 yet. Okay, so I might actually try writing this again. I was actually thinking to like click a button or like make a separate window or something for when I do want to chat or something. That said, maybe once we call this over, I will be like drawing those stuff and all that. That said, let me start off by hitting Control A and delete everything. Now, basically the kind of code that I'm going to write is that the code will allow gravity, will allow my player to jump, and it will allow me to type something in the keyboard as well. And I'm also going to be adding like histories here. So like I type something and I enter, that gets saved in my vector of histories. That said, firstly, let me start off by including a pro of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream, the eyes and ears of our program. And then let me go ahead and include a pro of ankle braces again. Since I am going to be using SDL3, I'm going to include SDL3 and SDLs as header files. Once I'm done with that, since I will be working with like text that is going to be rendering on my screen, I will be including TDF as well, which is true texture font. So I'm going to go with something like SDL3 underscore TDF slash SDL underscore TDF dot H, which is basically TDF and TDF's header files. Once I'm done with that as well, I'm going to go ahead and include a pro of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include the image section of SDL because I will be using PNGs. So I'm going to go ahead and include SDL3 underscore image slash SDL underscore image dot H, which is SDL3's image library and SDL's image library's header files. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and include string as well because I will be using like, a standard string to like, store strings inside of a string variable. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and include string. I will be also using the constant strings as function. I'll actually tell you guys what that means in a bit. Okay, that's it. Now once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and lastly include vector. Vector for like containers because I will be using message history and all that stuff. That said, once I'm done including all my libraries, I'm gonna go ahead and create a class first. I want to create a most basic class. This class is going to be called something like, I don't know, maybe chat box. Okay, let's go with something like, okay, should I go with chat box or chat? I think I'll go with chat box. And then a pair of curly braces. Now, does my chat box's class require any private data members? Okay, now that I can think of, so for the time being, I'm going to be leaving my private section empty, and then I'm going to go with something like public. Okay, now, do I want to create a constructor when my user does actually, load or like get my object, create an object for my chat box? Would I require any parameters? Maybe not. Okay, when you're coding, honestly, I'm trying to work on actual game logic in which I can like, I have like a window in that I apply gravity for two PNGs that's going to be there as well. My PNGs can move. I can have like automation for my NPCs, and I also have like a chat box and like the chat box's history. That said, I might not need a constructor. So what's the thing that I might need for chat box first? What up, guys? I didn't like work on this thing off stream because I didn't have like my post assessment today, so it might take me a while to review. Okay, let's see. So when I publicize everything, the first thing that I might need for chatbot could be I would need fonts. So let's go ahead and load my font. So I'm gonna go with something like the SDL underscore fonts structure. Honestly, it is going to be TDF underscore font, but would I need my TDF underscore font here? Guys, I think I should have actually reviewed my old code real quick. Maybe I might do that real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this part and then go with a bunch of Control Z's because I do want to actually read my old code really quick. Okay, because I did like I didn't have time to like review this off stream. Okay, so I needed text input. There we go. These were the things I forgot. I needed a text input to store my variables. I needed a few methods. First method for display text, where I actually display my text. Okay, using color, surface, and then I check if my surface was created properly. If it was, I get the size of my texture. I create it, reg, then I render on the screen. Lastly, I destroy my texture and my surface because I did create that. And then text event. These are the event types for my text to like let my backspace and everything work. Like if I click backspace, I want to delete my text. If I click H, I want to display my history type stuff. Okay, perfect. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Run it. Honestly, if I were to hit like Control to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I did like write this code yesterday, last stream. Okay, that's it. So I get my first window here and I get my second window here. So in my window, I have a PNG. I wanted to get my mage PNG here, honestly. That does move left and right. The only small error that I did have here was that when I type something, when I move, it does like type up here. I gotta like fix that this stream. That's it. If I type something like, hello, how's your day, question mark. If I hit enter, it displays on my terminal. If I hit H, I can see the history. This is saved in my history. Let's go with something like some gibberish. Now if I hit enter, it says player type this. And now if I were to hit H, it's gonna display my history. So these were the two messages I typed in general. Okay, do you know Tamil? Honestly, no. Okay, that's it. Why are you so zesty, guys? About zesty. Okay, that's it. Next up, let's go with something like Control A, Control V. Let's paste where I started. Now that I've reviewed the code, I think I understand it much better. Firstly, I have to create two private data members. The first data member is going to be a standard strings data member called something like text input. Okay, which is going to be equal to an empty string ending with a semicolon. This is going to be the variable where I actually store what my user types in. The second is going to be a memory address because I do want to add a histories as well. So I could go with something like a standard vector with a pair of anchor braces. Now my vector only consists of standard string and my vector is going to be called something like a message history. Okay, and then I end it with a semicolon. Now that I'm done with this, I'm going to be creating a few methods. The first method is going to be a void method of something like display text. Display text method is basically going to be in charge of me actually showing the text on my screen. That's it. My display text is going to be having a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be the SDL_renders structure, which is going to be having a renders pointer representing it. So I need a renders parameter, and then let's see what's the second parameter that I might need. I might need a font parameter as well, so I could go with something like SDL_font. Maybe it's TDF_font, so I'm going to go with something like TDF_font with a pointer towards my font's local variable. Okay, and then I go with the pair of curly braces. Now, inside my display text function, I'm going to go ahead and do something. Firstly, let's go ahead and... okay, what is something that I might need in my display text? Let's see. So when I want to display text, firstly, I want to actually create a surface for my display. But before that, I want to create a color as well, like what color my display would be consisting of. So I could use the SDL_colors structure, which has, let's say, something like a text colors as local variable representing it. That is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. Now, let's say my color is going to be something like, I want it to be black, so I'm going to go with something like 000, that is the RGB value. And then I'm going to be needing an alpha/opacity as well, which is how transparent or how not transparent my color is. In this case, I want a black color for my text that's not transparent at all. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and end it with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with creating my text color, I do want to create a surface as well, because like I will eventually be creating a texture, but then textures do be surfaces, because like texture is just a texture, surface is a place where my texture is going to be on, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to use the SDL_surface structure. Bro, how are you? How are you doing, long story? I appreciate you joining the stream. I'm actually pretty good. How are you doing, long story? Okay, that's it. I'm going to go with something like a text surfaces structure, which is going to be equal to, let's say, I think it is create surface, or like, I think it's something like TDF_the render text underscore blended function. Okay, now the render text blended function does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be my font. This is going to be my font's parameter. The second parameter that I might need here is a text. Okay, and this is where the strings library that we actually included comes in use, because I'm going to be adding my text inputs as variable here. That has to be my constant string, because this is what surface I want to create. But my standard string is not a constant standard string, so to convert this to be constant, I could use the .c_strings function. Now my text input is a constant string. Then I go with a comma, and then the third parameter is going to be a length. I don't have a length, so I'm going to set that to be 0. Lastly, a color. I have a color, so I'm going to use my text colors as local variable. And then I go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating a surface, I'm going to be using an if statement to check if my surface was actually created properly. So I'm going to go with something like if a pair of parentheses, if my text surface was created properly, then I'm going to go ahead and do something. Let's say I want to go ahead and create a texture if my surface was created properly, because a texture is the stuff that I'm going to be displaying on my surface. So I might use the SDL_textures this function. There we go. With an asterisk to something like a text textures as local variable. Okay, and actually a pointer. So my text texture is going to be equal to my image underscore, let's see, I forgot the function name. Was it something like, I think it was the SDL_load or create texture from surface. There we go, guys. These function names are kind of new and I didn't get enough practice with like actually writing the code because of my college. That's the reason it is like kind of vague and it takes me a bit longer to like recall the function names. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore create texture from surface function. What this function does is it creates my texture from surface exactly as the function name. Roses are red, violets are blue. Ashiya 6, Muhammad was 5'3" or 53. I see. Okay, that's it. Now once I'm done with that, my create texture from surface function does require two parameters. The first parameter is going to be my renderer. The second parameter is going to be my surface, which in this case is my text surface's local variable. There we go. Okay, and then I go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Now that I've created my texture, I want to get my textures as width and height as well, because if I don't, then I would just give like random numbers for my texture. That makes any sense. So it might be stretched, not the original size of texture. You knew that? Honestly, I didn't actually knew that. Guys, I'm kind of confused. Like, how they stuff that you guys sometimes even like tell me, I like be like, oh, I see, but guys, I actually don't see anything. It's like I don't understand half the thing. That said, so I'm gonna go ahead and create a floating point variable of textures as width and textures as height, ending with a semicolon. Alright, now once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and use the, let's say something like, let me go up here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore get texture size function. This function gets my texture size and it does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be my text textures parameter. The second parameter is going to be the memory address of my textures width and the memory address of my textures height, ending with a semicolon. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Now that I got my textures width and height, I'm going to go ahead and create a DST rect, which is technically a direction rect. Basically what DST rect does is it's like any kind of texture that's being displayed on our window, it is like inside of the invisible rectangle, so we'll be moving that rectangle or displaying our rectangle for the position. So I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore fRex structure. This structure is going to be, let's say, having a DST rexes parameter. Okay, and then I'm going to be ending that with a semicolon. What if I had something like an asterisk here? Okay, I mean, I don't think we actually create a pointer to our DST rect. So once I'm done actually creating a DST rect, I'm going to go ahead and fill in a few parameters. So I'm going to go with something like, there we go. Okay, I'm going to go with something like DST rect dot x-axis is going to be equal to, let's say something like, I don't know, do I have an x-axis parameter? I don't have an x-axis parameter, so I could just maybe add like few random numbers. So I could go with something like 100 ending with a semicolon, and then a DST rect dot y-axis is going to be equal to 100 as well, so it's somewhere at the top left corner of my screen. And then I'm going to go with something like DST rect dot width equals to my textures width ending with a semicolon, and then my DST rect dot height, which is going to be equal to my textures height ending with a semicolon. And that's actually like pretty much it for creating my direction rect. Now that I'm done creating my texture, my direction rect, got the sizes of it and all that, I want to display my texture on my window as well. To do that, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore the render texture function. What this function basically does is it says my render to render the texture on the screen. Although it does require like a bunch of parameters. The first parameter is going to be my renderer variable. The second parameter is going to be my texture, which in this case is my text's texture. There we go. And then the third parameter is going to be a source rect. Since I don't have a source rect, I just created a direction rect. I'm going to add a null PDR for my source rect. And lastly, I require the DST rex's parameter, which is technically the SDL underscore fRex structure. And apparently, I do got to add an asterisk here. Okay, honestly, I don't got to add an asterisk here. Alright, now I'm going to go with something like the address of operator, which is technically the memory address of my DST rect. And then I go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. And that's actually pretty much it. Although a really important part here, when we do create something, for example, I created my texture, we do gotta destroy it as well so it doesn't like wander in our memory. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore the destroy textures this function. I think I spelled destroy wrong. There we go. I'm gonna use the SDL underscore destroy textures function, which does require a parameter of my text texture. So I'm gonna go with something like text texture ending with a semicolon. Then I go ahead and exit outside of my if statement, which is all the way here. And I'm also going to be destroying my surface as well, because I did create a surface as well apparently. So I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore the destroy surface function with a parentheses of my text surfaces parameter, and then add it with a semicolon. And that's actually pretty much it for my display texts function. Now, once I'm done creating my display texts function, I'm gonna go ahead and create another function for my event checks, because apparently I do want to display my text, whatever I typed on my window, on my console as well, and also save it like in my memory. So I'm gonna go ahead and create another function. It's gonna be a void function as well. I'm gonna go ahead and call this function, I don't know, maybe a message history. So I'll go with something like text history. That sounds much better. So I'm gonna go with something like text history. There we go. With a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. My text history's this function is going to be requiring one parameter. It's going to be requiring the constant SDL underscore events structure, representing an events variable as a parameter. What this SDL underscore events structure basically does is it like consists of all the events in SDL. I'm going to be looking for specific types of events here. For example, I could check something like if my, let's say something like if my event.type, what up guys, I forgot to add the if statement. If a pair of parentheses, let's say something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore, let's say something like text underscore input, then I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add a pair of curly braces and do something. Did I spell event correct? If my event.type, that is my events parameter here. Okay, let's see if my event.type. Oh, maybe I gotta get the memory address of my event. There we go. I was like, why is it not working? Because I apparently set it to a pointer. I should have set it to like the memory address of the event. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna check if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go ahead and increase my input text. Let's say something like by my event.text.text, ending with a semicolon. Did I spell my event? Okay, so it's text inputs, not input text. So it's text inputs as variable. There we go. Okay, what this basically does is whatever I type on my keyboard does get registered inside of my text input. And that's actually pretty much it for my this event type. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and add another event type to check exactly what buttons are currently being pushed. So I'm gonna go ahead and check something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. What this event type does is it like checks if any of my buttons on my keyboard are currently being pushed down. If it is, then I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to use the SDL underscore key codes structure. And this structure is going to be representing a key variable. I'm pretty sure. Let's see what the key codes structure does. I actually forgot. Okay, values of this type are used to represent keyboard keys using the current layout of the keyboard. These values include Unicode values representing the unmodified characters that would be generated by pressing the key on an SDLK. Oh, I see. So basically, this helps us, like, this allows us to use the SDLK's, whatchamacallit, the event check, or is it considered a keyword? Although, I'm going to be setting my keys as local variable equal to my event.key.key, ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and use switches here because I feel switches looks like a bit cooler. Okay, you guys could like use if statement. Is like almost the same exact process. So I'm going to go with something like switch is going to be key, and then I'm going to go with the pair of curly braces and then add cases. Now, for my case 1, greetings, just woke up, having Roro hug, I appreciate you joining the stream, good morning as well. Okay, that's it. I'm going to check if my SDL's key is, let's say something like backspace. If my user clicked backspace on the keyboard, then I want to do something. Although, before I do something, I want to check something. I'm going to go with the if statement and check if there's at least something written in my window, which means my text input is not empty. So I'm gonna check if not text input.the empty function. If my text input is not empty, then I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Firstly, I want to delete what's written in my keyboard. So I'm gonna go with something like text input dot the pop underscore back function. What this function does is it like What up guys, let me fix my typo. There we go. What this function does is it like deletes one alphabet at a time from the last letter of my window. Actually, the last letter of my text, if that makes sense. That's it. This is like pretty much it. And then I'm going to go ahead and break. So now let's go ahead and break, ending with a semicolon. Now, for my second case, I'm going to check something. So I'm going to go with case 2. For my second case, I'm going to check if my SDL3 key is returned, which is technically enter on my keyboard. If my user clicked enter on my keyboard, then I want to do something. Firstly, I want to display whatever is written on my window, which is technically what is written in my text input on my screen. So I'm going to go with something like a standard console output with an insertion operator. That is going to say something like, okay, player type. So I'm going to go with something like player type. This is what my player typed. I'm going to go with another insertion operator. And let's say something like, I might go with something like my text input, my player type, my text input with another insertion operator of, let's say something like a /new line, and a /new line. Maybe I go with 4 new lines, ending with a semicolon. The reason I didn't go with like 4 new lines is not like completely necessary to do that, but then when I do want to display my history, I realize they're like kind of squished together, so I need some space. Okay, and then once I'm done with that, once I'm done inputting my, or displaying my text on my window, I want to go ahead and save that text in my vector, in my history, this vector that I created up here. So I might go with something like message history. Excuse me guys, dot the push underscore back function with a pair of parentheses that does require parameter of my text input. There we go, and then I go ahead and end this with a semicolon. What the push underscore back function does is it's like completely opposite of my pop underscore back. Pop underscore back deletes alphabets from the last digit. Push underscore back appends alphabets, or like appends what do I want to append from the last to the first. Okay, what are you making? Explain. Honestly, I'm working on the exact same thing that I was working yesterday because like I didn't have time to like work on a new content or even like make a new thumbnail in general. If you guys do like see my thumbnails almost the same as yesterday, just a different background. Because I did have my post assessment today. This is the finals this week for my college, so it is a bit more stressful. That's it, dude. What keeps you motivated? I admire your dedication. Honestly, I appreciate you programming. I've honestly never thought of that though. Okay, that's it. Next up, after I'm done displaying my text on my window, I do want to clear my text inputs as, whatchamacallit, variable. So like there's nothing else stored in it. And like when I type something new, I start with a fresh memory. So I'm going to go with something like text input dot the clear function. This clears my text input once the content is, appended or pushed back inside of my vector of my message history. And that's actually pretty much it. Once I'm done with this, I'm gonna go ahead and break. So I gotta make sure that I'm breaking it correct. So outside of my case, okay, wait, the case starts there. Okay, outside of my case, I'm gonna go ahead and break. Cause guys, I keep making mistake on breaking this stuff. I gotta like be very careful when I break here. Okay, perfect. That's like pretty much it in that case for my SDL's event. Okay, guys, hold up. I'm being like extra precautious here. Okay, I think like that's pretty much it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and exit outside of my my class and create another class. Oh, so you're solving the errors of yesterday, like with history. Honestly, I'm like working on those things and all that. That's it. I wanted to like fix my chat box as well. I might actually, try fixing it here. Bro, can you teach me how to code like you? Honestly, I would say like I did like learn all this from like repetition and like trying and errors as well. Because guys, I feel like practice makes perfect. Next up, let's go ahead and create my second class. So my second class is gonna be called something like, okay, last stream you guys did say me because like I did like create 2 separate classes for doing the same exact thing. This time I'm gonna try using one class but just have like the file path and the parameters that you guys were saying last stream. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a class called something like physics body. So I'm gonna go with something like physics body because I do want to implement gravity, jump logic and all that stuff for like all my NPCs, but I don't want to do it like one by one for them. So I'm gonna create a parent class / a base class. Now my physics bodies class is gonna be requiring, let's say something like, it's gonna be having a few protected data members. Okay, hold up guys, I think I spelled it wrong. There we go. The first protected data member is going to be, let's say something like gravity. So I might go with something like a floating point gravity. okay, which is going to be equal to something like, I don't know, maybe zero point 0.5 floating point ending with a semicolon. And then next up, once I'm done with creating a gravity, do I want to create x-axis and y-axis? I don't think there's like a point of creating that here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and publicize everything. Now I'm gonna go ahead and create or add a comment that says something like constructor, because I will be needing a constructor when I do load my physics bodies class. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add a constructor for my physics bodies class that is going to be requiring 4 parameters. The first is going to be a floating point x-axis parameter, the second is going to be a floating point y-axis parameter, the third is going to be a floating point width parameter, the fourth is going to be a floating point height parameter. And then I go with the pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my constructor, I'm going to go ahead and do something. What else do I need inside of my physics body? I might actually want to create a rect as well, so I might create a rect before my constructor. So I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore FREX structure. Alright guys, there we go, FREX structure, which has a rex's local variable representing it. Now, inside of a physics bodies class, I want to get my objects' width and height, so my textures is width and height. But I don't have a texture here. Do I want to create separate textures on my derived classes? I could actually do that. Would that be better and easier? Honestly, yeah, it would be better and easier. So my physics bodies class here is going to be requiring, let's say something like a floating point x-axis, which is going to be my x-axis parameter ending with a semicolon. Floating point y-axis, which is going to be my y-axis parameter ending with a semicolon. Floating point... Okay, I might just need x-axis and y-axis and not width and height, because like width and height is going to be dependent on like my textures is width and height that I did not load here. I'm going to load that in my specific textures is... Okay, my specific textures is class. That would make sense, honestly. Okay, once I'm done with my physics bodies as class, I'm going to go ahead and let's say do something else. Now, I want to create a few methods. So I'm going to go with something like methods. Now, for my methods, I'm going to go ahead and create a void method for, let's say something like apply gravity, because all my objects that inherit from my physics bodies as class is going to be having gravity as well. So I might use the apply gravities as function. Okay, now my apply gravities as function is going to be requiring a parameter of a floating point of my floors as y-axis, because I do want to land somewhere when I apply my gravity, or I want my gravity to pull my player towards something. In this case, that is my floor. Okay, now to apply gravity, I'm going to be using the most basic logic here. Although before that, since I do want to apply gravity, I might need velocities. So I might go with something like a floating point y-axis underscore velocity, which equals to something like 0.0 f ending with a semicolon. Now to actually apply my gravity, I'm gonna go with something like, maybe do I want to require a few parameters here? I don't know, maybe I could like require parameter for like velocities or like speed. Maybe I could go with something like a floating point y-axis underscore velocity. Then I would not need this here, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. Now, for my apply gravity, firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and increase, let's say something like my y-axis underscore velocity by my gravity. So you increase speed by acceleration, okay, and then you increase position by speed. Stop faking the accent. It sounds so cringe, guys. I feel this is my actual accent. Okay, that's it. So next up, I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. Excuse me guys, increase my reg.y-axis by my y-axis underscore velocity. This practically simulates gravity, so it's like my user is being pulled down every time from the y-axis. Okay, and now that I did add gravity, I do want to add landing as well, because I don't want my player to like infinitely be falling down somewhere. That's it. To add a landing, I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like if my rect dot y-axis plus my rect dot height, if my player's y-axis and my player's height, which in this case is my player's bottom, is either greater, higher than, or equal to at the same level as my floor's y-axis, then I want to do something. I want to go ahead and set my rex's y-axis, my player's y-axis, to be equal to my floor's y-axis. Let's say something like minus my floor's height. So I'm going to subtract my floor to bottom, so my bottom is going to be right above my floor. Okay, what programming languages is? Honestly, it is C++. Okay, that's it. I'm going to go with something like floor y. That's it. Now, once I'm done with creating this, I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon and reset my y-axis underscore velocity to be 0, ending with a semicolon. Okay, why are you using SDL3 for game dev instead of an actual game engine? Honestly, because I am actually not working on a real project. Instead, I am like learning the basics of programming. And I would say SDL is like a pretty good library for learning that because it requires more programming and it like gives us more control and all that stuff. That's it, because like we do gotta build everything from scratch so we get a good idea on how stuff works. Okay, that's it. That's pretty much it for my apply gravity. So I'm going to go ahead and exit my apply gravity function and create another function. So I'm going to go ahead and create another void function, this time to check if my user is on ground, like if my player is on ground, because I will be eventually adding like jump logic for him, so like he could like jump up. That's it. The only time I want him to jump up is when he is on ground. So I create a on ground this function that does require floors as y-axis as a parameter. Maybe a floating point floors as y-axis. Okay, then I go with the prof curly braces. Now, inside my function, I'm going to go ahead and return something. My bad, guys. This is going to be a boolean function because this actually checks if my user is on ground. It returns true if he is on ground. It returns false if he's not. So, I'm going to go ahead and return. The time I wanted to return true is when my rex's y-axis plus my rex's height is either greater than, higher than, equal to, or at the same level as my floors' y-axis, ending with a semicolon. And that's actually pretty much it. Now, once I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and create my final void function called something like jump. So I'm going to go with jump because I want to add jump strength as well. Okay, jumping character falling to the ground. Honestly, a character that can jump but he gets pulled back by gravity down, if that makes any sense. Okay, bro, please speak normally, guys. This is my normally. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to go with something like jump. Now, my void jumps function is going to require a parameter, which is going to be something like a floating point of power. Okay, this is going to be the jump strength on like how high my player actually jumps. Okay, wow, it requires a lot of logic, even simple ones. That actually does make sense. That's the reason I do like prefer like SDL3 like way too much when it comes to actually like learning programming, because like they do give us like a few functions that we could actually use, but then there are more stuff that we gotta like manually create the whole thing and all that. Okay, that's it. Now for my jump strength, I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Firstly, I want to check if my player is on ground. Actually, I don't want to check anything. I want to go with something like my y-axis underscore velocity equals to my negative power, ending with a semicolon. Okay, and I will be requiring a parameter of like a floating point y-axis underscore velocity as well. Okay, and that's pretty much it for my my physics bodies class. Now I'm going to go ahead and create another class. This is going to be called an NPC class because whatchamacallit, I want a class or maybe I might go with something like my player class. Okay, I code JavaScript, but this is harder. Honestly, it does make sense. I do want to like try JavaScript as well. That does sound kind of fun. I subbed. Honestly, I appreciate you for that. My Milo Runner is our pronunciation name. Guys, that actually means the world to me. Okay, I'm hating on him because he don't have Indian accent. Damn. Guys, that's actually a pretty normal thing now. Like, actually, every single stream, I do like get those comments like at least 5 to 6 times. That's enough for my player class. I'm gonna go ahead and okay, before I actually add a pair of curly braces, I'm gonna go ahead and inherit all the public content, let's say from my physics bodies class. Because my player class is my physics body, my player does require the attributes of my physics body. Okay, physics bodies class. And then I go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside my player class, let's go ahead and create a private data member. This private data member is going to be requiring my SDL underscore textures and structure, which is technically a texture for my my player, which is the file path that I load. This is going to be called something like player texture. Okay, and then I go ahead and set my player texture. Let me just end it with a semicolon. Okay, next up, I'm going to go ahead and publicalize everything. Okay, you need to move lots of logic from physics body to player. Do I? Actually, it does make sense because like, I mean, I feel like adding a derived class does make it like pretty less, it requires like less coding if I have like multiple classes. Because for now, yeah, I wouldn't like need my physics bodies as class because I will be requiring like all the content just like one class. But I feel it is like a pretty good practice. Okay, your accent is normal and I love this content. Thank you. Honestly, I appreciate you, Emperor. That actually means a word to me, guys. Okay, next up, I'm gonna go ahead and create a comment that says something like constructor. Okay, now for my constructor, I'm gonna go ahead and create a constructor for my players' class. My players' constructor, guys, this is a tricky part. It's gonna require a few parameters. The first parameter is gonna be my SDL underscore renders parameter, which is gonna be having a renders pointer representing it. The second parameter is gonna be something like a floating point of scale parameter. This is gonna be the size of my um texture slash my PNG, because I don't want it to be like really huge or really small. Okay, that said, maybe I want to add like another parameter. This is going to be the file path. Okay, this is going to be a bit trickier. So to add a file path, could I like go ahead and create something like maybe I go with something like player image. I could write it somewhere here. So I could go with something like my player texture equals to my image. Okay, here's the thing. I might need a parameter here of my players' textures, so I might actually create textures like outside my class, so I might not actually require my texture here. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete my private data member. Okay, so I'm just gonna be deleting that. Instead, I'm gonna require a parameter here of my texture, so I'm gonna go with something like the SDL underscore textures structure that requires a textures parameter. Okay, so I'm gonna go with something like texture. Alright, perfect. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add a colon here. The reason I did add a colon here is because since I added a constructor for my players' class, and my players' class does inherit from my physics bodies' class, I gotta create a constructor for the class that I'm inheriting from. Since I inherit from my physics bodies' class, let's create a constructor for my physics body. Okay, never heard of this accent, even thought it's supposed to be an American accent, guys. I think it's a hybrid accent in that case. Where do you live? Honestly, I used to like answer much, but I did stop answering that for like safety reasons. Okay, I saw a good job walking through your throughout process. Honestly, I appreciate you, Gabrielle. That actually means a word to me, guys. Okay, I mean it's normal, not bad or annoying accent. Okay, that's enough for my physics bodies class. I'm gonna go ahead and add a parentheses. Now I require a few parameters. The x-axis for my player is gonna be, I might actually not create a vector because it wouldn't make much sense. Like, let's go ahead and delete this. Let's go ahead and remove my rect from here as well. Okay, maybe I do need a vector because okay, so maybe I do go with something like, let's go with a bunch of control Z's here. Now let's scroll all the way down here in my physics bodies class. Before I do create the class, I'm going to create an SDL underscore FX structure. This structure is going to be representing like a few variables. Okay, I'll go with something like rect ending with a semicolon. Now, I want to fill in a few parameters for my rect. Maybe I go with something like my rect.x-axis as the parameter here, and then a rect.y-axis, a rect.width. Actually, my width and height is going to be 0 and 0 for the time being because I don't actually have one. Okay, rect.x-axis, rect.y-axis. I don't want to set a specific axis. I want to actually have full control over this. So, maybe I'd require a parameter of my rect as well here. So, I could, let's see, maybe let's go with something like SDL underscore FX structure, which is going to be representing a rect local variable. Okay, and then I go ahead and delete this. Now we go with rect.x-axis, rect.y-axis, rect.width, and rect.height. Okay, perfect. That's actually pretty much it. Now I go with the pair of curly braces. Now let's add content inside of my constructor. Okay, why don't you run the code to keep track of error and changes? Honestly, because I don't think there's like any error yet. So if I like run the code, like it is gonna execute properly, but like there's not gonna be any errors. Okay, guys, there's like I mean, I won't say these are errors. It's because I didn't actually complete my code yet. Can I ask your address, genius? Guys, that does actually make sense. Okay, why are you not using smart pointers like standard shared underscore PDR? Honestly, because probably I haven't like learned of them yet. Like I did like have like it is like my finals this week right now. Maybe once my college is over, I might have about like a month-ish break for like the winners, because like it is December right now. That's the time where I'm actually going to be pushing to learn extra programming. Okay, do you speak in the same way to your dog? Honestly, guys, I don't have a dog, but eventually I do want to like adopt a cat. Okay, let's see. So now my players' constructor is going to be, let's say, doing something. Firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and create a floating point variable for textures is with any textures is height variable ending with a semicolon. Then I go with something like the SDL underscore get texture size function. Okay, get texture size function. This function gets my texture size, but it does require a few parameters. The first is going to be my textures as parameter. The second is going to be the memory address of my textures as width and the memory address of my textures as height. You need to create an entity class which contains dynamic components. Each like physics body, for example, is deriving from base component class, each component data and update and render. That actually does make sense. That's the reason like I did create my physics bodies as class, because I can't like think of any other components that my players might need for the time being. Collision logic and everything aside, I do actually want to add those. That's the reason I just created physics body, because for now I just want to like add gravity to my player and even like automate my NPCs. That's it. Now let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. And then once I'm done with this, let's go ahead and render my texture on my screen. But the way I do want to like render my texture on my screen is by drawing them. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this from here. Let's paste it here. Maybe I get my textures as size outside here, so I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. Let's delete this from here. Okay, so I'm gonna exit my constructor. Do I need anything inside of my players' constructor? Let me think. Once I add my parameters, I think I was going correct. So let's go ahead and add this here. Okay, now I just want to draw it outside because I still have my textures as size here, right? Okay, I think that's actually correct. So I'm gonna add my parameter here. I want a draw method. I think I should like create a draw method in my physics bodies as class, because all my functions would need like all my classes would need a draw method. Okay, please add sound too. I do want to work with the audio section of SDL as well. I might actually try that like once my call is over type stuff. Because guys, I did like actually voice act so many different sound effects. For example, like whatchamacallit, eating meat sound, and then like chugging potion sound and all that. I'm pretty excited to like use that. That said, maybe I do create it here. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore render textures this function. This function renders my texture, but it does require a bunch of parameters. First is going to be my renderer, so I'm going to go ahead and add my renderer parameter. The second is going to be my texture. I'm going to go ahead and add my texture parameter. The third is going to be a source rect. Since I don't have a source rect, I am going to be setting this to be null PDR. Last is going to be my DST rect. That is going to be my rect parameter, or the memory address of my rect parameter. Then I go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Okay, then you can create the player class that derives from entity in the feature of player, add the physics components. Honestly, I think I actually did that, but I just like added all my parameters inside of my physics bodies this class. Okay, that's it. I think this is pretty much it for my constructor here. Lastly, I do want to destroy my texture, but I might destroy my texture like in my main loop. So once I'm done with this, let's go ahead and exit outside of my constructor here. What is something that I might need outside of my constructor? Maybe okay, so it starts there. What ends here? So this starts there, it ends here. Okay, what else would I need outside of my constructor? I honestly cannot think of anything else that I might need. Okay, maybe I go with apply gravity. I have apply gravity, not key controls or anything, because I don't think I want to add key controls here. Player creation, honestly, yeah, this is like where I actually do like load my player on my window. Okay guys, I think that's pretty much it actually. Now let's go ahead and create my main function. So I'm going to go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of curly braces. Okay, now my main function is going to be requiring two parameters. The first parameter that it does require is going to be an integer of, let's say, something like argc. And the second parameter that my main function does require is going to be a character, which is technically going to be a pointer towards an array of argv. Okay. Excuse me guys, then inside my main function, I'm going to add a comment that says something like initialize SDL and TDF. So I might go with something like initialize SDL3 and TDF. Now to initialize my SDL, I'm going to use an if statement to initialize it and also check if it was not initialized properly, because apparently in C++ we do gotta check if we get errors. Okay, so I'm going to go with something like if a pair of parentheses, if not SDL underscore init, if my SDL was not initialized properly. I'm gonna check if the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly. I'm gonna go with SDL underscore init underscore video. So if the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly, I'm gonna display myself a standard C error, which is like an error text that says something like SDL underscore init error with a pair of parentheses, actually a pair of parentheses with a colon. Okay, don't you think making the physics system depend on SDL completely will create problems in the future if you need to use something other Windowly library? That actually does make sense. Like, I know that this is not like really perfect here because because the reason I did want to create something like this is because I wanted to give myself full flexibility inside of like my main loop, because like I want to write less code as well, like very less code for like one class can like do multiple things depending on the parameters. But guys, I do think that it will like cause a lot of errors in the future when I do try making the stuff more complex. So is it a good practice to like have separate classes and like actually create my texture as a private data member here, create my rect as a private data member as well? I think that would be like smart, but I could like test and see what like how this works, because I feel like this might work for this program. Okay, that's it. Next up, after I give myself an error text, I'm going to use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore get errors as function. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with another insertion operator and use a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I return 1. Okay, that's pretty much it to initialize my SDL. Now let's go ahead and initialize my TDF. It's exactly honestly the same as SDL. So I'm going to go with something like if, a prof parentheses, if not TDF underscore init, if my TDF slash true texture font was not initialized properly, I want to go ahead and display myself a error text. I'm going to go with a standard C error with an insertion operator. That is going to say something like TDF underscore init error. Then I use the function that actually gets me an error. I'm going to use the SDL underscore the get errors as function with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I return 1. And that's like pretty much it for initializing my SDL and TDF, guys. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and add another comment that says something like game variables. This is going to be like the general basic game variables that my program is going to require. For example, I could say something like a constant integer of width variable. This is going to be my Windows' width. I'm going to set it to be something like 1000, and then I'll go with a constant integer of height variable, which is going to be equal to 800, ending with a semicolon. This is my Windows' height. And then once I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and add another comment that says something like, maybe I double space them because I think that might look a bit more cleaner. Okay, my comment is going to say something like create window and renderer. Basically, what this comment actually means is I'm going to be creating both my window and my renderer at the same time. To do that, I would need 2 local pointers. The first pointer, damn, 20 days left to Christmas. Guys, I'm kind of excited for Christmas, but I don't think I'm going to do something special then. That said, I'm going to go ahead and firstly create a pointer towards my windows. So I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore windows as structure. That is going that all the attributes of my SDL underscore windows as structure is going to be representing by my windows as pointer, which is going to be equal to null PDR for the timing. That is basically a placeholder for pointers ending with a semicolon. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore renderers as structure, which is going to be represented by a renderer's local variable that is going to be set to null PDR ending with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating both the pointers that I need, let's use the function that actually creates both my window and my renderer at the same time. To do that, I could use the SDL underscore, alright guys, there we go, create a window and a renderer as this function. This function creates both my window and my renderer at the same time, but it does require a few parameters. Actually, a bunch of parameters. The first is going to be the SDL3. Let's say the first is going to be a title slash a caption for my window. I'm going to say something like SDL3 window created. And then I go with a comma. The second and third parameter is going to be my Windows' width and my Windows' height, which is technically my width and height variable. Okay, and the fourth parameter is going to be a flag for my window. If you guys do want to create a flag, you guys could go with something like 0. but I do want a flag that makes my window resizable. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore window underscore the resizable flag. This flag makes my window resizable. Lastly, the fifth and sixth parameter is going to be the memory address of both my window and my renderer's pointers. So I'm going to go with the address of operator, and then I'm going to go with something like window, and then I add and then I add a comma that says something like renderer. Okay, perfect. And that's actually pretty much it. So I go ahead and end my function with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating both my window and my renderer, let's see what happens. Has any one of you accomplished your end goals this year? Huh, guys, I had like so many goals this year. I don't think I've accomplished much. Honestly, I feel like the best goal that I did accomplish was like my Python for 100 series, because like by the end of that series, my goal was to like, what you may call it, make a game that consists of AI logic in it. And actually not AI logic, just make a game in general. I was like done with that. The second goal was like, I actually didn't believe that I was gonna hit like 10,000 subscribers this year. And like, guys, that was like a bold dream to happen, but because of you guys, I'm actually really close to hitting 10,000 subscribers. I do appreciate you guys so much for that. That said, let me actually check. So it's please take hold up, guys. Let me write something down real quick. Okay, give me a sec, guys. Let me go ahead and just write something, because I usually note stuff down. So 649, there we go. C sharp, Odyssey related C++. That's it. Now let's go ahead and use a if statement to check if either my window or my renderer was not created properly. Because apparently in C++ we do gotta check if we get errors. So I'm gonna go with something like, if not window, if my window was not created properly, or not a renderer, if my renderer was not created properly, then I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Firstly, I want to go ahead and display something like a error text. I'm going to go with a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like SDL underscore create window and renderer error. It's apparently the way I do get my error names. So just use the function slap an error after that. Which rendering library are you using for this game? Honestly, I feel like I'm using a graphics library I'm using the SDL3's graphics library. Okay, that's it. Now once I'm done adding my error message, I'm going to go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore get errors as function with a pair of parentheses. Then I go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now if either my window or my renderer was not created properly, I do want to do something. I want to go ahead and actually quit my SDL. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I return 1. And that's pretty much it for creating my window and my renderer. Now I'm gonna go ahead and create another comment that says something like create objects. Guys, I'm using the word create a lot here. That's it. Now this is going to be where I actually do create my objects. The first object could be from my chat boxes class. I'm going to be having an object called something like chat box. Okay, my chat boxes object does not require any parameters, so I'm just going to end it with a semicolon. And then I'm going to create a class I'm going to go ahead and create an object for my players' class. This is going to be called my players' object ending. Okay, that does require a few parameters. Actually, I think it requires a bunch of parameters, right? Okay, so my players' class requires let's see. So it requires, what up guys, there we go. It requires a renderer, a scale, and a renderer, a scale, a texture, and a rect. So I gotta go ahead and create that. Maybe under my game variables, I'm gonna go with something like create textures. This is where I create my textures. First texture is going to be the SDL underscore textures structure with an asterisk to something like my player texture. There we go. Okay, now did I spell player texture correct? Texture. There we go. What up guys? Text. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and end that with a semicolon. Now let's go ahead and load an image for my texture. So I'm going to go with something like player texture. Okay. Is going to be equal to the image underscore load. Actually, what up guys, is it image underscore load? Okay, it's image underscore load texture. There we go. So I'm going to use the image underscore load textures function. 11 p.m. here. We'll finish the vid tomorrow. Good night. Honestly, I appreciate you singing through a stream. Viewix, is that your Pinterest name? I'll catch you next stream. Make sure to get your 8 hours of sleep. Okay, why not use OpenGL? It gives more functionality. Honestly, the reason I do use SDL is because it gives us more like control over everything, because apparently it does give us very less functions to work with. We do gotta like manually create everything, so it is a pretty good practice as well. Can you show the result? Honestly, I'm almost done. That said, my SDL underscore load textures function does require two parameters. The first is going to be my renderer parameter. The second is going to be, let's copy this. I'm going to create my texture after my window and my renderer. All the way down here before my object. So I'm going to go here. Let's go ahead and paste this here. Now the first is going to be my renderers parameter. The second is going to be a file path. My file path is going to be something like, let's say, okay, maybe I think this looks much better. Okay, my file path is going to be, I don't know, maybe assets / let's go with something like mate.png. Okay, and that's actually pretty much it. Alright, once I'm done creating my player's texture, okay, I'm going to go ahead and exit this here, and then I scroll all the way down, or output. Honestly, I'm going to be having like a window where I can actually type stuff and store it in my memory. I'm actually almost done. Okay, bro, I'm a big fan of you. Please shout out my name. Happy Wednesday. Honestly, I appreciate you joining this stream, Sai. Okay, that's it. Let's see. So now my player's constructor requires a few parameters. I forgot the parameters again, guys. Renderer, scale, texture, rect. So I gotta add my renderer parameter. Okay, and then my scale is going to be something like 0.1, which is 10% of my original size. Render scale, texture is going to be my player textures as parameter. So I'm going to go with something like player texture. And then lastly, it's going to be render, scale, texture, and rect. Was it render, scale, texture, and rect? Render, scale, texture. Okay, now rect. For my rect, I'm going to go ahead and create my players as rect under my game variables. So I'm going to add a comment that says something like player rect, which is going to be where I am going to be using the SDL underscore f rex's structure that does represent a player rex's what you may call it. Vector, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that and with a semicolon. What are you doing, mate? Honestly, I am like working on game logic in SDL3 using C++. That's it. Today's topic is like working on the chat box in my game, where I do actually add keyboard stuff and everything. Like what I type in my keyboard is going to be displayed on my window. I did apply gravity for my PNG, so I will have PNG / texture as well who can move, and maybe I'm even going to be automating my enemies. Do you make games? Honestly, I'm learning on how to make games, because like my goal by the end of my programming for 258 series is to make a game in general that consists of AI logic in it. So I do gotta learn on how to make my PNGs get like a brain of them or something like that. That said, I'm gonna go with something like player vec.x-axis is gonna be equal to something like 100 ending with a semicolon, and then my player vec.y-axis is going to be equal to something like x-axis is 100, y-axis maybe I want to like set it to be something like 300 ending with a semicolon, because like y-axis wouldn't matter much because my player is going to be falling down because of the gravity. And then I'm going to go with something like my player vec.width equals to my textures width. This is where once I actually create my texture here, I want to create two variables. The first is going to be my textures as width variable and my textures as height variable. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Okay, and then let's see. Do I like leave two spaces here? Okay, I did. Okay, once I'm done creating my texture, I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of spaces, paste my vector. Before my rect though, I want to go ahead and get my textures as width and height. So I'm going to go with something like a floating point of my textures as width. Do I add that here? Okay, actually, I already add that inside of my function here, so I might actually not need my textures as width and height. So I'll just go with a bunch of Control Z's real quick. So, okay, let's see. Alright, my textures width is going to be something like, I don't know, I won't even add my textures as width. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. Okay, now I'm going to be adding my rex's parameter here. Alright, perfect, and that's actually pretty much it. It's going to be the memory address of my rex. Okay, it is called player vec. My bad, guys. I'm gonna go with something like player vec. Alright, perfect, and that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and end my object with a semicolon. I will be creating my enemy class in a bit though. Yeah, and instead of programming a physics system, you can use Box 2D physics engine. Honestly, I do want to use engines, but the reason I'm not using it is because I want to like write the code manually to actually get practice and see how stuff works behind the scenes. Damn, that's cool. Are you always live at this time? Honestly, yeah, but once my stream is over, I might go live like a bit sooner, because now it's almost like 4 p.m. And the reason I do like stream a bit later right now is because I do like come from college and I gotta eat something and then I stream because like guys, I wear this in my college and I go, so it's like I didn't even change my clothes. Okay, that's it. Next up, let's go ahead and create a main loop. So I'm gonna add a comment that says something like main loop. For my main loop, I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Let's see. I might create a few variables. The first variable is gonna be a boolean variable. These are gonna be the variables to check if any of my buttons are being clicked. I want to check if my A down is being pushed. Since it's not, I'm going to set that equal to false. And then I'm going to go with something like D down as well. Since my D is not being pushed, I'm going to set that to be false as well. A and D is so my player can go left and right using those key buttons. The second variable that I might need is going to be a boolean variable as well of something like is running. This tells me if my program is currently running. I'm initially going to be setting this to be true because when I run the code, I want my program to be running. Okay, which college are you in, guys? I don't think I can like give my actual college name because like that's for safety reasons type stuff. That said, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and create a event variable. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore events structure, which represents a events variable ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with this, I'm gonna do the most important part here. Wait, before the most important part, I might actually need to create another boolean variable, which is going to be called something like on ground. This is going to be telling if I'm currently on ground. I'm going to be setting my on ground to be equal to my player's object dot the is on ground method, ending with a semicolon. That does require parameter of my floors' y-axis, ending with a semicolon. That's it. I forgot to create my floor, guys. Hold up. Okay, now let's go ahead and create my floor. So I'm going to add a comment that says something like floor. Floor is basically going to be the place where a player is standing on. So I might go with something like, or I might use the SDL underscore fx structure, which consists actually, which has a floor's local variable representing it, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll add a few parameters. Let's say my floor's x-axis is going to be 0, so he's at the like left side. And then I'll go with something like floor's y-axis that is going to be equal to something like maybe 750 because my floor's height here is 800, ending with a semicolon. And then I'm going to go with something like my floor's width. That is going to be the longest. I'm going to go with something like 1050, which is like bigger than my Windows' size. So it covers my entire screen. And then I'm going to go with something like my floor's height, which is going to be equal to something like not too big, not too small, 100, ending with a semicolon. Alright, perfect. Now that I'm done with that, and I'm done creating an on-ground variable here as well, I'm going to do the most important thing, guys, for my text. I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore start text input sys function. This function starts my text input. Without this, I won't be able to say anything that I write on my screen. This does require a parameter of my window though. Okay, perfect. Now once I'm done with that, let's go ahead and actually create our main while loop. So I'm going to go with something like while April of parentheses. Okay, favorite Western food of yours? Oh, okay, there's actually a lot, like, honestly, guys, I don't, is it considered Western? Like, I do like, eating oats with, like, black coffee. That's, like, one of the go-to for me, but since, like, oats is not as healthy in its own, I mean, it is pretty good, pretty healthy, but not as nutritious. It does have a lot of fiber, though. Let's say, guys, I honestly don't know, because, like, I rarely eat stuff from outside. I mostly, like, eat stuff from inside. I do eat, like, peanut butter and, like, bread for, like, my dinner. Okay, that said, I'm gonna check something like while is running. Although, guys, I actually don't know. Like, thinking of it, I like rarely even eat outside. I should like know something that I might like. Let's think. Okay, favorite Western food. Maybe honestly, I can't think of anything much because I like rarely eat from outside. Okay, although I did like try eating modifieds a few times. That used to be like years ago, guys. I don't eat that anymore. Okay, that's it. Inside of my while loop, I'm going to add a event loop. So I'm going to go with something like event loop. Event loop is basically going to be a while loop inside of a while loop / a nested while loop. So I'm going to go with something like while April of parentheses. Let's say something like while SDL underscore poll events. So my event loop requires a parameter of the SDL underscore poll events function. Now my SDL underscore poll events function does require a parameter as well, which is going to be the memory address of my event variable. And then I go with the probe curly braces. Now, inside of my while loop, basically what the SDL underscore poll events function does is it like looks for all the functions that I'm looking for inside of my while loop. If a condition is met, it does what I tell it to do. So I'm gonna go with something like, for example, I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event. What up, guys? SDL underscore event underscore quit if my event type is quit. If my user click the top right X button to exit my window, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna set my is running to be false, ending with a semicolon. That ends my entire while loop, ultimately ending my entire program. Okay, that's pretty much it for my first event check. Now, for my second event check, I want to go ahead and add my players as event. Having water? Guys, that does make sense. I should like keep a reminder to drink water. Like I have water, like I'd be so dehydrated. Like after the stream, I like, whatchamacallit, usually my throat is completely dry. I kind of miss drinking coffee. I should have made some coffee before starting streaming. Okay, that's it. Now, for my second check, I'm gonna go with something like my player dot let's say something like event check. What were the methods here? I forgot the methods, guys. So I have a apply gravity method that is going to go in my graphics. I have a on ground. I have a jump method. Okay, I have a text history method and a display text for my player. Actually, for my chat box. So instead of player, I'm going to go with something like my chat box. Okay, and then let's go ahead and delete my layer from here. My chat box dot, let's say something like a display text method. Okay, there we go. And then I go with the pair of parentheses. Let's delete that part and change char to chat. Okay, below it's okay. That actually does make sense, guys. Okay, let's see. So my display text is parameter does require two parameters. First is my display text. Second is a font. So first is going to be my renderer. So I'm going to go with renderer. Second is a font parameter. I did not create a font. So I don't know, maybe after my player vect, I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like create font. Maybe I create my font like after my game variables. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like create fonts. Actually, load font makes more sense, guys. I'll go with something like load font. Now to load my font, I'm gonna go ahead and use the TDF underscore fonts structure that consists of a font's local variable representing it. That consists a pointer of my font's local variable representing it, which is going to be equal to the image underscore the load font function. Actually, open font. I think it's TDF underscore open font. There we go. Now my TDF underscore open fonts function, it requires two parameters. First is my fonts file path. Looks like a game loop. Honestly, I am like working on game logic. What are you doing / making today? Today I'm honestly working on making a chatbot and like gravity logic on my player using like object-oriented programming where like my enemy is going to be automated as well. And my player can like move right and left and also type something. And I'm also adding like whatchamacallit message history. Okay, SDL game code, guys, that was the easiest way to tell it. Okay, I think you should make an indicator for trading just like algo trading. I do want to add trading systems. Honestly, I might actually try that. Okay, that's it now. To load my font, since I don't remember my file path, I'm going to go with Control-Alt-L, Control-Alt and L, get my Solution Explorer here. Right click on my project, open folder in Explorer, and then let's see my fonts, my file path. So it's going to be under my fonts. I'm going to go with Open sans-italic.tdf. So that is my file path. So I'm going to go with something like my fonts folder /open sans-italic. Okay, .tdf, that is my file path. My size is going to be 24, then I end my function with a semicolon. You're a future Elon Musk, guys. That actually sounds kind of cool. Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done loading my font, I'm going to check if my font was not loaded properly because apparently in C++ we do got to give ourselves errors. So I'm going to go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like if not font. If my font was not created properly, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I want to say something like I want to display error text. So I'm going to go with a standard C error with an insertion operator. Let's say something like loading font error. Okay, and then I go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore beget errors function. This function gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return one saying something went wrong in this block of code, so go check it out. Okay, now that I've created my font, I'm gonna go all the way down here, and in my display texture, I'm gonna add a font size parameter ending with a semicolon. Okay, that's actually pretty much perfect. Maybe, excuse me guys, I might actually, since like this is like Open Sans font, just to make it more readable, I might go with something like Open Sans, excuse me guys, Open Sans underscore, or Open Sans font. That sounds kind of cool. There we go. Okay, that's actually pretty much it. Should I go with Open Sans italic font? I don't know. I feel this sounds kind of cool. I might go with something like italic. Okay, because like eventually when I do want to load like multiple fonts, just font would sound kind of broad. Instead, I want to have like a really actually a detailed name. There we go, Open Sans italic font. So this displays my text. But I don't want to display my texture. This was kind of a mistake, guys. Hold up. Let's go all the way up here. I wanna display my text history. Under display text, this goes under my graphics. So I'm gonna go with display text history. So instead of my text, I'm gonna go all the way down here, and I'm gonna go with something like my chat box dot the display text histories as function. Okay, with a parameter of my event variable ending with a semicolon. Did I spell display text history correct? Display text history. What was the function called again? It was just called text history, not display. So I might remove display from here. It's just text history. Okay, and that's actually pretty much it. Let's just copy that, delete that from here. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and add another event check. This event check is going to be for my key control that moves my player around. What kind of game is he making? Honestly, I'm like working on a game where my player is like affected by gravity. So like there is gravity in my game. My player can move left and right. My player can jump upwards as well. And also my player can like tap something on the screen that does get registered to like, whatchamacallit, a vector of my histories. Actually, yeah, that does sound kind of cool. ChatGPT code. Honestly, guys, that does make kind of sense because like I do use ChatGPT to like learn stuff because I feel it does make stuff much easier and all that. Although most of the logic is mine. Okay, is it 2D? Honestly, yeah, it is two-dimensional. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna go with something like, is it 2D platform? Honestly, yeah, SDL3 is like a whatchamacallit, a 2D graphics library that we use to like actually work on our codes. That's it. Next time I'm gonna go with something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down if my event type is key down. If my user is currently pushing a button downwards in my keyboard, I'm gonna do something. Noob 2D coder, guys. I started like whatchamacallit, like I think it's been like 77 or 78 days. I feel like it is like pretty good progress, but I would have made like much more progress if I did not have like my college, because like since I have college, per day I just like stream for 2 hours, which means I program for 2 hours as well. Okay, but once my college is over, I could like usually like before when I start my Python series and I used to not go to college, I used to like program for like 10 hours a day. That's it, guys. I might actually try that again. Okay, now I'm gonna check if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore key codes structure. You could just make this in Python. Honestly, I did like make a code like this similar in Python. That's it. I'm gonna go with something like code, which is gonna actually not code, my bad, guys, key. Okay, so this is gonna be a key local variable representing my SDL's key code. Keep going, brother. You're better than my whole team. Guys, I feel that's like, I feel better than the whole team is kind of crazy because I feel that I am still a beginner. That's it. Next time I'm going to use the event.key.keys as, whatchamacallit, keyword here, ending with a semicolon. Now, I'm going to be using a switch because I feel like switches is like, whatchamacallit, switch is kind of cool. You guys could like use if statement. It's like almost the exact same thing. I'm going to go with something like key with my parameter, and then I'm going to add a few cases. For my case 1, I'm going to check if my SDL's key is, I don't know, something like A. If my user clicked A in my keyboard, then I'm going to set my A down boolean variable to be true, ending with a semicolon. And then I'm going to go ahead and break, because apparently we do got to break in cases. Next up, for my case 2, I'm going to check if my SDL's key is something like D. If my user is pushing my D downwards, I'm going to go with something like my D down boolean variable. I'm going to set that to be true, ending with a semicolon, and then I break. Lastly, for my third case, okay, lol, you're really putting your whole team down like that. Okay, so I'm gonna go with something like case. So for my third case, I'm gonna check if my SDL's key is space. Okay, I'm gonna fire them all. Guys, fire them all is actually kind of crazy. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna go with something like space. So if my user did type space, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna check if my player is on ground. I'm gonna check something like, and if my player is on ground, I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and go with something like my player dot the jump parameter. So I'm gonna go with something like player dot jump, which does require, let's say, a few parameters, a jump power and a velocity. So I'm gonna go with something like jump power, which is gonna be 12. My velocity is gonna be my y-axis underscore velocity parameter, and then I end this with a semicolon. Now the reason it shows a red error here is because under my game variables, I am going to be creating something like a floating point of y-axis underscore velocity, which equals to 0.0f, ending with a semicolon, and then a floating point for x-axis underscore velocity, which equals to something like 5 pixels per frame. Okay, you're not dead, bro. I can't be that bad. I mean, okay, next up, let's see. So once I'm done getting my player above my ground, I think I should set something like my on ground to be equal to false here, ending with a semicolon. Since this is outside of my bench loop, this rarely updates. Maybe I should get that inside my loop as well. This guy's like 12, he doesn't have a team. Oh no guys, they're not talking about me, they're talking about Hero. Is that your finisher name? That's it guys, I'm not 12, I'm going to be turning like 18 next month because my birthday is in the January 5th. It's in a couple of days guys. Okay, that's it. Now once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and copy my entire if statement here. Let's go ahead and paste here just to save time. Now for my second check, I'm going to check if my key is up. Basically the key up check is the complete opposite from my key down check. I'm going to be checking, let's add a pair of parentheses here. Okay, now I'm going to be checking if it's key up. If my user is not currently pushing a key down, I'm going to be changing my trues to false, changing the trues to false here as well, and also deleting my case from here. And that's actually pretty much it for my event loop. So now I'm going to go ahead and exit my event loop. There we go. Okay, and now outside of my event loop, I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like fill screen. Okay, now for my fill screen, firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and do something. I'm gonna go ahead and set a color to my render, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore set render draw color function. Okay, this function sets a color for my render to draw, and do I like require a pair of curly braces or something here? There we go. Does that make it look good? Let's end this with a semicolon. I think that's an extra curly braces. Maybe not. Is it? Hold up, guys. Let's go with a bunch of control Z's here real quick, because I usually make the small mistake. My while loop ends here. There. Okay, I don't think I need a curly braces here. My if statement ends with a curly braces. Oh, I see. I require a pair of curly braces here. I knew something wasn't right here, guys. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add a comment that says something like fill screen. Okay, so I'm going to add a comment that says fill screen. Now, to fill my screen, I'm going to set a color to my render. Okay, what game logic are you doing, Gravity? Honestly, I am like working with Gravity as well, but I am trying to fix my old code as well by like making the classes more cleaner and all that. Okay, yeah, how did you learn all of this? And do you need a good PC? Honestly, I wouldn't say like we need a really good PC to program this, because like the only reason I did like get a new PC is because I stream, because like I multi-stream on like 5 different platforms. Gonna start streaming on Facebook as well actually. That's the reason I do need a good PC. But then I feel like we could like actually do the same exact programming in like a laptop, because before I did start streaming, I used to like program on my laptop as well. That's it. Later on, I did like move on to a mini PC, which wasn't as good as my PC that I currently have. That's not even like that. I mean, it's not. I won't say like it's really good, but it actually gets the job done. But the mini PC was better than my laptop, if that makes any sense, guys. Okay, I don't take opinions from Python Kitty. Okay, a garbage PC will work fine, guys. It actually does make sense. Now to fill my screen, I'm firstly going to use the SDL underscore set render draw color function. So this function sets my render to draw a color, but this function does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render. The second, third, and fourth parameter is going to be an RGB value. This time I want my window to be cyan. So I'm going to go with 0, 248, and 255. This is the RGB for cyan. Lastly, the fifth parameter is going to be alpha slash opacity, how transparent or how not transparent I want my color to be. In this case, I don't want to be transparent at all, so I'm going to set my alpha to be 255. Now, once I'm done setting a color to my renderer, I'm going to use the SDL underscore render clear function. This function tells my renderer to clear slash fill my entire screen with the color of my renderer, which is technically a cyan in this case, ending with a semicolon. Now that I'm done filling my screen, I'm going to add another comment that says something like, maybe graphics. This is going to be where all my drawing is going to take place of my window. Okay, bro, are you going to make a game? Honestly, I am like working on game logic right now, but eventually by the end of my programming for like 250 series, my goal is to make a game in general that consists of AI logic in it. That might be kind of hard, but it does sound kind of fun. Yeah, I know C++, C#, Perl, Python, honestly, is like, or is Perl like a separate programming language? Perl, Python, SQL, HTML, Java, JavaScript. That actually sounds so cool, guys. Okay, I'd love to get into it, but I don't have anything to do, so I'm gonna end up getting a laptop now. Okay, that you have said this, so thank you. Honestly, that's actually welcome, guys. If you do have like any questions related to programming, like in Python or like C++, because like I did like learn those languages and I'm pretty fluent with them, you guys could like ask me in my Discord server. Okay, that's it. That was a quick shameless plug. Now, for my graphics, firstly, I do want to do something. Let's go ahead and color my floor, because my floor color is technically considered a graphics as well. To do that, I'm going to use the SDL underscore the set render draw color function again. This function, we like use this function again and again if you want to like change the color to like something else, because if I didn't use the function, my floor would be cyan color, because like I've initially set my render's color to be cyan. Now, my floors is RGB. Let's see. I actually forgot my floors are RGB. I think it's 155, 55, and 0. Okay, guys, I think this is a brown RGB. Okay, and then I'm going to require renders and parameters. Well, I forgot about that. And lastly, an alpha slash opacity. I'm going to go with 255, so my floor is like not transparent at all. Now, once I'm done setting a color for my floor, I'm going to use the function that actually colors my floor. Okay, so I'm going to use the SDL underscore render something, my render, to fill my rect. To fill my rect, so the render fill rect, I'm going to fill my rect with the current color of my render, which is technically brown in this case, ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and use my player.the apply gravity function. I want to apply gravity to my player. My bad, guys, I forgot. The second parameter is going to be the memory address of my floor. Okay, gravity. There we go. So I apply gravity. That does require parameter of my floors as y-axis. So I'm gonna go with my floor.y-axis and my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. There we go. Okay, bro. Why do you think to learn Unity? How's that? That actually sounds kind of cool to start my dev journey. Honestly, before like you guys do start using a game engine, which it actually depends on preference slash perspectives and like what you guys actually want to do. I would recommend not starting off by using a game engine, because like I would recommend like actually programming using SDL or like Pygames, because that requires more coding so you guys understand how stuff actually works. But then game engines does make things easier on and everything. But I mean, you guys do need to know like C# if you want to like start Unity, and like C++ if you want to start Unreal. But I would just recommend like using like libraries that does require more coding so you guys get in a hang of it before like using any kind of game engines. Game engine is like meant to make stuff easier for us today, if that makes any sense. That's it. Now once I apply gravity, let's see what else do I need. Let's scroll all the way up here. Okay, were you a complete beginner when you started this 100 days series? Honestly, yeah, when I started my Python for 100 days series, I thought that basically any programming language could make a game, so I thought might as well like learn Python for 100 days and make a game by the end of that 100 days series. My initial goal was to make a text-based game, because I didn't know I could actually make a graphics-based game, because I didn't know about Pygames. But eventually, the more I programmed every single day, I actually realized that Pygame would make this even more possible. But yeah, I was like a complete beginner. Dot apply gravity. Honestly, I use like the apply gravity function that I created. So, okay. Alright, that's actually pretty much it. Should I learn Pygames? I would actually recommend learning Pygames because like I would recommend starting off by learning Python because like Python is pretty easy and it gets us in the basic programming mindset because like it shows us how while loops works, nested loop works, how lists, sets, tuples, and like collections in general works and like all those basic stuff. That's it. Do I need anything else? So I apply my gravity here. Okay, and that should be pretty much it for my graphics. I'm a beginner, please give me tips. Honestly, if you guys do want my roadmap for like my Python, you guys could like join my Discord somewhere, like mention me there. I could like DM it to you guys. Show that function then. Honestly, it's like a method. The method is inside of my class, so it's all the way here. So I have a method for like apply gravity that like actually applies my gravity and works on my landing as well. So yeah, that should be pretty much it for my graphics. Once I'm done with my graphics, let's see what else. Oh, nice. I mean, in terms of coding, you were completely new into 100 days, or did you have any background with development prior? Honestly, no, that was like the first ever time, like the first ever video that I did upload, like which was like 5 months ago about me, like my week one of programming for like 100 or like for Python for 100 series. That was like my day one of me actually learning what Python was. So I had to like literally Google and check what was Python. Then eventually I found like a video from like a YouTuber called Broco that was really helpful for the first 20 days. Later on, I felt like I was learning better with ChatGPT because like I could like get more exercise questions to like practice raw code than like watching a lot of tutorials. That's it. This is actually pretty much it. Now I'm going to add another comment that says something like present renderer. Okay, and guys, I am like actually kind of exhausted because like I had my post assessment today because like this is the final today was the final day for one of my courses in college, and this Monday is my second exam, so I do gotta prepare for that as well. So Discord might be the last one. Okay, that's next up. For presenting my renderer, I could use the SDL underscore the render present function. This function presents my renderer on my screen because if I did not present my renderer on my screen, I won't be able to see colors on my screen, so my screen is going to just be black and white. Although it does require a parameter of my renderer ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with that, since I am going to be having movements like my player is going to be moving around, I'm going to add a comment. Excuse me guys, I'm going to add a comment that says something like FPS, which is technically frames per second. To add FPS, I could use the SDL underscore the delay function with a parentheses. My SDL underscore delays function requires a parameter in milliseconds. I'm gonna go with 16 milliseconds, which is technically 60 frames per second. Okay, what should I learn before starting Unity? I only know C basics and HTML, CSS. Honestly, I feel like Unity is like for C#. Fact check me. I don't think C can like use Unity, but like you guys could like fact check me. But if you are like pretty fluent with like C and like C, CSS and like HTML, I feel like that should be pretty good for you to like start Unity, because like I wouldn't like still recommend starting because like I don't know how much experience you have in all that stuff. If you feel you're really good with programming and you understand the basics and like you want to like make stuff easier for you to like make games and all that, then I would recommend starting Unity. ChatGPT felt better because it was text-based, which made you actually try what you're learning rather than just watching and not trying. I used to watch and try as well, but then I feel like I got like more questions using ChatGPT because because before, like for per topic, like I had a whole roadmap. Before I was a beginner, so I don't know how much practice I actually had to get. So for example, for my print statements, for example, I did 50 questions on print statements, then I moved to the next topic, which are variables. I did 50 questions on variables, then I moved to the third topic, which is like typecasting. I like did 50 questions on typecasting, then I moved on to like loops, while loop, did 50 questions. I like it's 50 questions, and then I move on to the next topic because I didn't know how much practice I actually needed. But now that I understand the basics, I feel like I don't need to like do 50 questions per topic here as well. I mean, practice is always good, but then I feel like we should also like save some time. HTML and CSS are web languages for websites. That actually sounds kind of cool. Well, Unity C#, I believe. Honestly, it is C#. That's enough for cleanup. I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore destroy Windows function. What the destroy Windows function does is it like destroys my Windows. So I'm going to destroy my window once my user exits my entire game, and then I'm going to destroy my renderer as well. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore destroy renderer. So there we go. Okay, with a pair of parentheses that does require renderers as parameter ending with a semicolon. Alright guys, I think I had a typo here. Okay, that's insane, brother. So before you were doing 100 days of Python, and now you're building games on your own, you're a fast learner. He's very dedicated. Yeah, it actually means a word to me. Honestly, yeah, before like I was like planning to go to like machine learning before I actually thought to like start my program for like 258 series. But then I thought that what you may call it, learning C++ is like pretty good stuff as well. So I was like, might as well have a series where I learned C++ for like actually I learned programming in general because I didn't know what our languages would be the best, or like I thought I might require like Python as well when I actually what you may call it, started my program for 200 series, because I do need like because I was gonna implement AI logic as well. That's the reason I thought might as well learn C++ because I might require Python as well. So I made like a broad learning series instead of like a specific one. That's it. Next up, I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like key controls. Key controls is basically I'm gonna do something if one of my these keys are pressed. So I'm gonna go with something like if a parentheses. Let's say if my A down is set to true, then I'm gonna do something. Firstly, I want to go ahead and increase my player dot rect, or maybe I go with something like my player rect. So I'm gonna go with something like my player vex's rectangle dot the x-axis by my, let's say something like x-axis underscore velocity ending with a semicolon. Then I'm gonna go with something like if a pair of parentheses, let's say something like if my d down is set to true, then I'm gonna go with something like my player vect dot x-axis is gonna go ahead. I think this should be increased by x-axis underscore velocity ending with a semicolon. And I'm going to decrease it here. Okay, because this is going to go towards the left and my increase is going to go towards the right. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Now, if I did control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. AI logic, do you mean as in like basic video game NPC or chat GPT? Honestly, I wanted to, hold on guys, let's see where I got an error. Additional function can be generated for this type. Additional function can be generated for this type. Redefinition of parameter X, format parameter Y-axis. Ah, I see. Argument stratification from double to float. What up guys, let's scroll all the way up. I think I know where this messed up. Okay, and when I like say AI logic, I actually mean like I want to like talk to my NPCs in my game. So if I type something, they kind of have like a chatbot's intelligence. So like I talk to them, they guide me towards the game, like what should I do next, and then I say something, they reply something, and they have like an end goal, guys. I don't know how am I going to do that whatsoever, but I feel that did sound kind of cool. That's there's textures as width here. This is going to be my textures as width. This is going to be my rect. Okay, let's scroll all the way up. Okay, I think the place that I actually did mess up was when I did create my player. This is what one of you guys did even like say me in the chat, that doing it somewhere like this where I was actually trying to use my player class to like create multiple objects and all that stuff. This might be a bad idea. Let's see. Wait, I want to see what error did I get again. What up, guys? So, okay, where's my error? There we go. So it says a redefinition of formal parameter y-axis. That is going to be in my, there we go, it's going to be right here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Okay, I might not need the parameters here. Let's go ahead and delete the parameters from here as well, because I don't think that I might need a constructor here. Okay, the apply gravity could honestly go. Let's actually copy my apply gravity is on ground and jump. Okay, I was going to make this a broad function, but apparently not, guys. Maybe let's actually delete my entire physics bodies as class, because even though it would be useful when I have like multiple physics bodies or multiple objects, it wouldn't be useful like here, like in this code, because like I mean it is like almost the same thing. I might remove this as well, so let's go ahead and remove this. Let's delete that. Go with the prof curly braces. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and add a private data member here. So I'm gonna go with something like private. This is going to be something like a floating point of gravity, which is going to be equal to 0.5f ending with a semicolon. Okay, let's end it with a semicolon. Now I have SDL underscore get texture outside of my constructor. When I exit my constructor, I'm gonna go ahead and paste this. This is gonna be my rect for my player. I mean, here's the thing though, I have my rect up there. Do I want to add my rect here? I could like easily create my rect here. I mean, might as well. I'll go with something like SDL underscore fx structure. This consists of a rect ending with a semicolon. This requires a parameter of my rect. So excuse me guys, I might delete the SDL underscore fx here. Okay, floating point. Ta-ta. This is going to be my Rex's memory address. Okay, I think I see. That is my general texture. These are my basic Rex. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill in a few parameters. I'm going to go all the way here. I'm going to go with rect.x-axis equals to 100 ending with a semicolon. Rect.y-axis equals to 100 ending with a semicolon. Rect.width equals to my textures' width. Rect.height equals to my textures' height. Okay, 18 hours of focus learning on C++ for 20 days is greater than 100 days of C++ for like 2 to 5 hours. Honestly, guys, that actually does make sense. I like completely agree with that because like the reason I do just spend 2 hours streaming these days and learning programming is because I have college. Because like I do want to really end up with like end off with a 4.0 GPA. So I'm like, what you would call it, prioritizing my college's exams because it's like my final week for like my finals of my college. So I am prioritizing that a bit more. That did like decrease my programming efficiency and time because like usually I like spend maximum 2 streams on one topic because I like practice a lot off stream, but these days I just practice like on stream because like off stream I am pretty busy. That's that. Once I'm done with this, I'm gonna go all the way down. And this should like be pretty much it. Now let's go ahead and delete my players like from here because I won't need this anymore. Okay, instead I'm gonna go ahead and set this to be my renter. This is gonna be my players object.direct. Okay, my players' object, create object. This is my rect. I don't require rex's parameter here. Alright, perfect. Now let's roll all the way down here. Hold up, guys, trying to focus really hard. I'm gonna go with something like my player rect.x-axis. This is gonna be rect. Okay, and then I'm gonna go with something like player rect, player.rect.x-axis. Alright, now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first window here. Okay, and then I get my second window here. Although in my second window, I can type something. If I hit enter, it does display what I typed here. So that part works. The part that didn't work was my player was not being displayed on my screen. That could be because I didn't add a function that displays my player on my screen. So let's scroll all the way up here to my players class. Okay, there we go. I added this render texture on my whatchamacallit, inside of my, let's copy that real quick. Hold up, guys. Let's go with something like Control Z real quick. Okay, there we go. Okay, guys, what I wanted to say is that I added my function or like my draw player inside my constructor. This goes outside my constructor as a function, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that, delete that. Let's go with something like a void method called something like draw. So I'm going to go with a void draw method that does require a parameter of my renderer ending with a semicolon, which is technically going to be my SDL underscore renders structure, representing a render as a local variable. Okay, then I go with the row of curly braces. Now inside of my draw method, I'm going to go ahead and do something. Firstly, I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of spaces, space that to my texture. So I might actually add my texture up here as well. Okay, let's go ahead and copy my get textures width and height. Let's copy that, delete that, paste it all the way here. Okay, now for my texture, instead of requiring a textures parameter here, guys, something's wrong with my mouse. Why is it not like actually mousing? I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. Okay, so I require 2 parameters. Instead, in my private data member, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore textures structure, which consists of a textures as variable ending with a semicolon. Now I have my textures as width and height, which I'm gonna go ahead and delete from here. Okay, I mean I have x-axis, y-axis, extra pair of parentheses and constructor. Is there? Oh yeah, actually yeah, this thing. No wonder, guys, I should like pay more attention in these things. That said, now let's see. I have my x-axis, y-axis. I want to get my textures as width and my texture as height that I get right here. Okay, that's actually like pretty much it now. I'm gonna go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Okay, let's go ahead and go down here. Alright, maybe I get my render down here as well. I think this looks much better, guys. There we go. Okay, I will also tell you to make your own C++ library so you save a lot of your time in the code because you're not making for everyone, but Seer needs to make it as like make it as like. Honestly, I see that actually it does make sense. You're not making for everyone, but Seer needs make it as like. Oh, I see. Okay, honestly, I know there's like much easier ways to like write this code because like I did like disable my Intel Essence as well here, and also I disabled my Copilot because like I did want to actually type the code out manually to so I can get the muscle memory in my fingers. Then later on, eventually, I am going to use shortcuts once I do understand how this stuff works. But I feel like when we start, I prefer like learning better if I actually write it manually. That said, where's my texture here? I'm pretty sure I had a function that said create textures. Okay, I have game variables, I have floor. There we go for my create texture. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. Let's go ahead and delete that. Let's delete that. And now I'm gonna delete my texture from here. Okay, and then let's scroll all the way up here. I'm gonna go ahead and under my draw method, I'm gonna go ahead and create a texture. So I have my texture there. Now let's go ahead and create my texture under my draw method. Let's paste it all the way here. So this is my this is my texture. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. Let's change this to just be texture. Okay, so texture equals to image dot. So this is my image's image. Now I'm gonna scroll all the way down. Actually, this is pretty much it. I just gotta use the draw method now, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the draw method under my graphics before I apply my gravity. Let's go with something like player.theDraw method with a parentheses that does require parameter of my renderer ending with a semicolon. Now, if I hit Control to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I get my first window here. Okay, I don't actually see my player. Did I present my renderer? I see my floor. Okay, let me think. Where could my player have gone? Okay, what is something that's missing when I actually load my player in? Let's see, let's scroll all the way up here. Okay, so under my constructor, I have x-axis, I have y-axis. I do not have those inside of my draw method. Maybe I go ahead and set these parameters inside of my draw method. Doesn't that like ruin the purpose of me actually creating a constructor here? Okay, let's think. What is something that my constructor would need? What is something that my constructor would need? My constructor might need this, so I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. Let's go ahead and delete this. Okay, my constructor has my texture loaded in it. Okay, and then my constructor is going to be having my rect as well, so I'm gonna go ahead and set something like my rex's x-axis to be 100, ending with a semicolon, rex's y-axis to be equal to 100 as well, ending with a semicolon. Then I go ahead and copy this. Let's go ahead and paste it all the way here. I get the width and height, so I'm gonna go with something like rect.width equals to my textures' width multiplied by my scale, ending with a semicolon, and then my rex's height equals to my textures' height multiplied by my scale, ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I go ahead and I delete this part from here. Okay, that's actually pretty much it. Let's go ahead and copy this. Let's delete this. Let's actually remove my entire draw function from here. Actually draw method and then paste this here. Alright, that's actually pretty much it. Now I'm going to scroll all the way down here. Let's remove player.draw. Instead, I'm going to hit Ctrl to save the code and run the command and see what happens. I get my first window here. Why can't I see my player? Am I doing something wrong? I think I did everything correct, honestly. I present my renderer, I add my FPS, I apply my gravity. Here's the thing, when I apply my gravity, I don't think my player like falls down completely because I do see my screen. Let's think. Let me change that to something like 200 so it's a bit bigger. Maybe change that to something like 700 instead. And let's change this to 100. Okay, now, what is something that I'm doing wrong? Is it that I added my floating point y-axis and x-axis there? Excuse me guys, is it because I required a floating point y-axis velocity here? Okay, this is for adding gravity. Rex's y-axis increases by my y-axis velocity. I add the check here. Excuse me guys. Okay, I don't know where am I messing up. I think everything's correct here. I add my renderer here, I add my scale here. I add null PDR, I add my rex here, which is being scaled. Rex is width, rex is height. Okay, let me think this up with a calm mind. Okay, let's go with one problem at a time. Why can't I see my chatbot? Could it be because I didn't display my text? I'm pretty sure I displayed my text. Okay, in that case, could it be because I added a scale here? I have my history. My histories does work. Wait, let me check if my histories actually works. I get my first window here. I get my second window here. Let's type something like hello. If I hit enter, it does say hello here that I spelled absolutely wrong. If I hit H, my histories does not work, guys. I think I know where the issue is. Wait, what up, guys? I think my histories did work. It was just me. Let me go all the way here. Get my first window. Get my second window here. Let's say something like hello. Now, if I were to hit H, okay, H does not show my histories up. If I hit enter, it says I typed H. Okay, I think I understand. Did I display my histories? So, where does my histories go again? Text histories in my event section of my variable. My display text should be in my graphics. Under my graphics section, did I add a display text? I did not, guys. I'm so glad I did not. It's a silly mistake. Chatbox.the display texts method with a pair of parentheses that requires a few parameters of my renderer and my font. Renderer and my font, ending with a semicolon. Okay, this is going to be Open Sans font, so I'm going to go with something like Open Sans italic font. There we go. Did I spell it wrong? Hold up, guys, let's scroll all the way up here. So it's Open Sans italic font. I think I just had a typo up there. Let's go ahead and paste it here. There we go. I mean, I don't know if I want it to be capital. I might go with lowercase o here, and then let's change it to be lowercase o here as well. There we go, because I do want it to be like camel case, if that makes any sense. Alright, perfect. Okay, now this should display my font on my screen. So if I hit control, I should save the code and run the command and see what happens. I get my first window here. I get my second window here. Let's type something like hello. It does display my font now. That's actually perfect. Hello, my name is Fifth Universe! Exclamation. If I hit H, it does not display my history till now because I did not add a history check. Under my event variable, I go with chatbox.history though. This should display my history, but it does not display my history. Let's see why it was not displaying my history. So, I could go ahead and go all the way up, event.type, text event input, I incremented, that's correct. If my event type is key down, if I press any kind of buttons, my backspace works. Why does my history does not work? That is because I didn't display anything from my histories. There we go, guys. I just had to jog my memory up. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way down here. Now let's go ahead and use a for loop. So I'm going to go with something like for, a pair of parentheses. This is going to be an index-based for loop. Let's say for every integer of I, which equals to 0, while my I is less than my text history dot the size function, while my I is less than my message histories is vector, I'm gonna go ahead and do something. Let's copy that, paste it here. Okay, are you employed, brother? Honestly, no. Actually, I don't have a job or anything. I've never had one. Or student. I am a student. That's it. Next up, we're gonna go with something like increment my I by 1. And then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go with the row of curly braces. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and do something. I'm gonna go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, what do you think about which industry will grow more? One, gaming industry, guys. I actually, I don't know, I don't want to give any opinions on that, but normal create games 50-50 success. Two, cybersecurity definitely is gonna grow to protect games and apps from penster slash worst-create. Is that how you pronounce it? That's it. Yeah, I feel like cybersecurity is always going to be a really demanding field because we always get cyber threats. We open a business now and then we're going to be getting some cyber attacks like hackers and all that. So we do need someone to protect us from that. In the other hand, I would say high level game development or low level languages game development or really advanced game development, for the time being, AI would not be able to take over, but AI can take over the basic stuff for software development. but I feel AI still can take over like the really advanced stuff, because AI does like critical thinking and what humans actually prefer playing, if that makes any sense. Unless like AI actually sees the surveys from humans, like humans are like, we prefer this in our game, that in our game. AI can implement those things, but not for the time being. That said, I'm gonna go with something like a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like history. This is gonna be my message history, which is gonna be equal to, maybe I remove like a bunch of forward new lines from here. Instead, I might go with something like, let's go with, uh, let's delete my history from here real quick. I'm gonna go with a pair of quotes, forward new line, forward new line, forward slash new line, and forward slash new line. I think 3 is good. Then I go with another insertion operator that says something like history with a hyphen and a space, and then another insertion operator. I want to display my input text. Okay, with another insertion operator. Did I spell input text correct? It's text input, so I'm gonna go with something like text input. Okay, with another insertion operator of a standard end line. Excuse me, guys, ending with a semicolon. Okay, maybe I go with 2 forward slash new lines. Alright, perfect. That's actually pretty much it. Actually, instead of text input, I might go with something like my message history. So I'm gonna go with something like my message history at index of I. Alright, perfect. Now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Guys, I think this is gonna work. So I get my first window here, and I get my second window here. Now, if I were to type something like hello, my name is the universe, exclamation. If I hit enter, it is displayed on my window. If I type something like H, okay, my window is displayed plus my history is displayed. If I hit H, okay, it doesn't like explicitly display my history. Like, I mean, it isn't what I expected it to be, but then I do think like I can like fix this if I actually wanna, but then guys, I do not think I wanna like actually work on fixing this whole thing right now. That's it. It's just like if you sync type stuff, because the only time I want to display my message history is because I gotta add another case here. Maybe I do add another case here, I think, guys. I don't want to be lazy, but then I do like gotta go as well. That's it. I think I'll just add another case. So I'm gonna go with something like my case 3. If my SDL3 key is H, if my user clicks H, then I'm gonna do this. Okay, I don't think that took time at all. Okay, everyone has send which condemns to their damnation without Jesus, and they said, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved, and thy house. That actually does make sense, guys. Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done with this, let's see, what is the system specification? Honestly, it wasn't like a technical specification. I just wanted to like add like text, like a chat system in like my window, and also message history and all that stuff. That said, instead of an end line, I might go with something like a bunch of forward slash new lines. Let's go with forward slash new line, forward slash new line, and forward slash new line. And now for the control, I should save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens. So I get my first window here. Actually, I get my console here and my window here. Now let's type something like hello. If I hit enter, it says player type hello. I'm gonna click H. That does give me my histories. Let's type something like hi. Let's say something like how's your day, question mark. Okay, so it says something like hi. Now if I go with H, that says me this is my histories. Okay, I mean, it isn't something like that I wanted it to say, but then it's not that bad as well, honestly. Break. Oh, I forgot to break, guys. There we go, guys. This is the stuff that I like keep forgetting. I like keep forgetting to break. Now, if I did control to save the code and run the command again, let's see what happens. I get my console here. I get this here. Let's actually speed run this, guys. Hey, hello, how's your day? Question mark. If I did H, it says hey. It said hello as well. It said how's your day, and then it has like it has my histories and all that stuff. That said, honestly, I didn't want to work on the logic where I do actually like spawn my player in as well. I think I like messed up in my player classes. It won't be that hard to fix it, but I do like gotta go right now because it's Monday. I do have my finals and all that stuff. So I might actually end the stream here. That said, let's get Sensei slash ChatGPT here. Let's say something like, Sensei, I actually wrote a code. Let's say something like, Okay, let's say I actually wrote a code that just shows the chat system with a message history. Although I did mess up the player spawning on the screen because I thought to try using one class, okay, that can have different file paths. Okay, that was a bad idea because I didn't think the whole thing through. That said, I am planning to end the stream right now because I do have an exam this Monday. So, before I do end the stream, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers? Question mark, guys. I have like so many typos. Okay, that said, let's see. Vivek, you're ending the stream early because of an exam. Good, guys. I mean, I don't think it's early. It has been like 2 hours. That's it. Once my exam is like over, I might stream for longer. That means your brain is still functioning and hasn't brought it into frames per second. I think it has actually. I'm kind of exhausted. Listen up, viewers. Your boy here has been wrestling with SDL like he owns the, like it owns the money. Typing code with the keyboard, upside down, and somehow still managed to build a working chat system before most people even figure out how to open Visual Studio. Guys, I think that's exaggeration. That said, he's got an exam on Monday, so you better cheer him up. Okay, like he's going to war because he is against math or chemistry or whatever demon is on the uh, timetable, and if he doesn't study, I'll personally hunt his project by making every semicolon disappear and replacing them with emojis. Okay, you hear me, chat, I'll do it too. So support him, tell him to go study, tell him to rest, tell him to hydrate and stop spelling like his keyboard is sliding down a hill. Guys, I need to work on my typos, but that was kind of okay. Now go Vivek, study, rest, and come back stronger. Code will be waiting for you, and so will I, ready to yell, praise, and bully you into greatness. Great stream, honestly, I appreciate you, Destroyed. Okay, that said, let's go to my main camera. Alright guys, so basically, let me actually get in the center of my screen. And guys, was my stream actually lagging? Was I not in my center all along? That's it. So guys, basically, this was pretty much it for the stream. That's it. I didn't want to stream for longer, but I do gotta have an exam this Monday, so I do need to study and don't want to like exhaust my brain. Due to the reason I didn't like actually, explain properly and like write the code perfectly was because I had a post-assessment, so like I had to like type a lot and like write a lot in my college today. That said, once I was like back home, I was already kind of exhausted. That's it. If you guys did enjoy the stream, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, like, helps my algorithm, sharing makes you smile, and subscribing is like it sharing top. And guys, I did start multi-streaming on Twitch, Kick, YouTube. I will start multi-streaming on TikTok and Instagram as well if I did meet the followers requirements. If you guys do enjoy my content and haven't followed me there, make sure to follow me there. The link is in the description, and also join the Discord server because like many of you guys do ask me for my roadmap for like C++ or like Python in general. So if you guys do want the roadmap or have any kind of question, want to talk to me in general, you guys could join the Discord server. The link is in the description. That said, I'll catch you guys in the next live stream or video. Peace.